The next interview is with Anna Davis.
Hello, we're back again. Today we'll be interviewing Anna Davis. She was director of the Bayport-Blue Point Library for a number of years. My name is Gene Horton. I'm the interviewer. And today is May 21st, 2013. So we say hello to Anna Davis, and we're very anxious to get her comments and her memories about the library and the town of Blue Point as it was years ago. Hello, Anna.
Hello.
What year did you get here now? You're
In 1951.
51.
We moved from Santa Mauritius with our 18-month-old son and an unruly dog.
And you moved to Blue Point.
Yes.
Bergen Lane, the same
Right,
house.
the same house.
And who was director then? Was that Mrs. Saddam? Or?
Yes. And I didn't really get connected to the library except as a customer. I think I started in 1959 as a volunteer at the desk for one evening a week. And my partner was a lady named Shifra Green. I think she's probably long dead. She was older than I was. And back then we were open either 3 afternoons or 2 evenings a week or the other way around, and I could never remember, and neither could most of the public.
Not like it is today where they're open 7 days a week, really.
Yeah, but there are still people who wish it was open at 9. I see people
Yes.
walking up. They deliver their children to school. And
So we used to open at 9 a.m.
no, we never did.
Oh, we never did that.
We never opened before
Okay.
10. I thought it would be nice to be open at 9, but somehow we never got that far.
Never got that
Yeah.
far. But in the old days, our time open was very limited.
Oh, yes. Maybe 3 hours in the afternoon and 2 in the evening or something. And for even later on when we were open most evenings, we were never open on Tuesdays because that was the day that the trustees met.
And they had trustees then, back in the 50s and 60s.
Oh, yes. There were always trustees.
Now, do you remember any of the trustees way back then? Or
I remember Joe McCarthy very well.
Joe, of course.
And Laverne Whitlock was there
Laverne.
for over 25 years, I think.
Joe was a great writer.
Yes, yeah.
I once visited him in his house down here on the Glades,
Yeah.
and he told me he had 5,000 books in his house.
Wow.
Everywhere you looked, there were books.
I might have that many in my
But
house.
Joe said to me he used them primarily for insulation.
Well, you can't read them all the time.
He used to stack them.
Yeah.
But he was a nice man. I remember him, of course.
One of his sons is a neighbor of mine now, you know.
Oh, Dennis.
Dennis, yeah.
Dennis, that's right. That's right. And he looks sort of like his father.
Yes,
He
more
does.
like his father all
Yes,
the time.
yes.
Yeah.
Joe was a very tall man. And Joe was a trustee then of the library.
Yes, yes.
We ought to get Dennis in here to do a
Yeah.
recording, tell us about that.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Saddam, you knew her, I suppose, right? Winifred?
Yeah, I didn't know her well, but she
Yeah.
was the director, also a volunteer when I started out.
They were good years, I'm sure.
Yes.
And did we actually buy books then, or were we still using... I know in the beginning
Yes,
you collected.
we bought books.
You did buy
Yeah.
them.
I started buying the children's books probably, sometime in the mid-60s. Trying to remember the name of the lady that was the book purchaser at that point, and she gave me half of the job. By that time, Sarah Courant and Gertrude Friedlander were serving as joint directors. And, the budget was $10,000 a year.
$10,000 a year.
For quite a long time, it stuck at $10,000 a year.
And the biggest expense was probably books.
Yeah,
Well, maintenance.
and maintenance.
Maintenance.
Keeping the place heated and
The
lighted.
bills.
Yeah.
Because all the staff were volunteers, right,
Yes,
in the old
everybody was
days.
a volunteer.
Nobody was paid.
And when the Suffolk Library System was organized,
Yeah.
we were one of the smaller libraries and one of the last that was all volunteer. And the others were sort of annoyed with us because we were getting by with a $10,000 budget, and here they were trying to pass, $50,000, $60,000, which sounded like a lot of money,
A lot of money.
and we were making them look bad.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I know a lot of local people, ladies especially, worked here at the library for free.
Yes, well, they were all volunteers until I think it was probably 1971. I started as director in the fall of 1970. And at that time, we had about 25 or 30 people working as volunteers, and I thought it would be nice to have fewer people and have them work more hours.
Yes.
So we decided to go to a paid staff, and
Yeah.
we got down to about 7 or 8 in all. Now it's up to over 50 again.
Oh, over 50. I was going to say
Yeah.
it takes a lot of people to run this.
Yes.
And the library is one of the few things in town that appeals to all ages. Pre-kindergarten, right up
Yeah.
to senior citizens.
Yeah.
That's a great appeal for the library.
And certainly in recent years, it's gotten to be much more than a pile of books. It's
Oh,
a
yes.
community center, all kinds of things going on
Yes.
here.
I know that the community room is in constant use.
Yeah, somebody said we need another one.
Another one. Do you remember the old Bennett house?
I do, yes.
front?
Yeah.
Oh.
I remember going there and meeting Sheila and Helen, and there was I guess it was a kerosene stove
Yes.
probably, heating the place.
A dark brown stove,
Yes.
if I remember it correctly.
And at that time, I had 2 children. They were 5 and 3, I think. And
Yeah.
Martha, who was 3, was very determined about what books she wanted, and she always chose the most tattered of the picture books.
Tattered.
And I don't know, maybe she thought, maybe she was smart enough to know that those were the good ones that
Those are the
everybody
good
liked.
ones. They're going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I remember they used to keep a teapot on that stove, I think, didn't they?
Well, it's possible.
I don't know,
I
boiling
didn't
water or
know
something.
Teapot. But
Yes.
Yeah.
And were books kept upstairs in the Bennett house? I don't remember ever going upstairs.
Well, at least in the last year or two, it was considered unsafe to go up the
Unsafe,
stairs.
yeah.
The floor was
yeah, and
damaged
the weight
or
of
something.
books.
I think for a while the Girl Scouts met up there, but that was
Oh, they
before
did.
my time, so I
Yeah,
don't really
yeah.
know. Yeah.
The Bennetts, by the way, are buried right back here, you know.
Yeah.
And they had greenhouses on this property, you know, in the back.
Yes, and you know the reason there's no connection between the old basement and the new basement.
Yeah.
It's because when they started the excavation for back there at the end of the 1938 building,
Yeah.
1950 something building,
Yeah, yeah.
they ran into foundations from the old greenhouse,
Oh.
which our foundation was sitting on top of, and they didn't dare bust
Don't
it.
mess with that.
So, no passageway between the old basement and the new.
I remember, too, right where we are, there was a roadway here
Yes.
leading to the cemetery.
Yes.
And we did work out a land swap or
It took
something.
a long time. People understood that it had happened, but there was no documentation.
No, there
And
wasn't.
I think we had to go through the whole business again when we made the second edition.
Yeah. So on the library today, there were 3, the original and then 2
Two
editions.
editions, yes.
That's what I thought. Yeah, the original was built around 56 maybe, or somewhere around
Something
there.
like that, yeah.
And I think Henry Betchman, didn't he have something to do with that building? Didn't he design it or sketch it or?
He certainly sketched it.
Yeah. Oh, and then maybe that architect from,
The architect
Oh.
is the same one who worked on the second edition. I can't think of his
Oh, I
name.
can't
but
remember his
should
name either.
dredge it up.
he wasn't from Bayport, was he?
No, he was from out east somewhere.
Oh, out east?
Yeah.
And now they have the third, well, this is the third part of the building anyway, where we are now.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly has changed a great deal, hasn't it,
Yes.
over the years?
Uh-huh.
We're lucky.
Well, back when we had only one building, you remember there was a swordfish, a mounted swordfish. It was against the back of the nonfiction section.
In the Bennett house or in this building?
In the newest part of this
I don't
building.
remember that.
Well, it was mounted up on the wall,
Yeah.
and my children and most of the other children in the neighborhood, anytime they went to the library, they had to go and look at the fish,
The fish.
which was a gift from Charlie Post. He must have caught it and had it. Didn't know what else to do with it, so he gave it to the library
I
probably.
wonder where it is today.
It may still be in the cellar. I
Could be
don't
in the
know.
cellar. Sure.
Kathy Klug was fond of the fish.
Oh, the
and
fish.
Had the second edition. She had it mounted on her office wall, but I
that's
noticed
nice.
that after she left, it disappeared
Gone.
pretty soon. So
Probably went downstairs.
this may be down there, but it may also have gone
Yeah.
out with the trash.
And the school children across the street, they come over here at all, or?
There was a period when they did not have a library in Blue Point School, and classes came over, and Mrs. Stoner and Mrs. Stahl taught them how to find things in the catalog and various things like that.
Boy, that was good.
Yes.
Yeah. Because the library originally started in the school. That was our first 1938. It's good that we have a tie with the school.
Yes. Well, back when we were all volunteers and we were only open a little of the time, communication was difficult. So we had a notebook that we left at the desk, and if you had something that the people in the next shift should know about, you would write it in there. And I wish that those had not gotten lost because there were occasional interesting incidents in there.
I just remember the stamping, when you took a book out and the stamp was at the end of the pencil.
Yes.
Remember those, the due date?
Yeah.
I miss the card catalog.
I do too. And
No
I
more
miss those cards that told you how many books you had out and when they were due. Yes.
They're all gone today. Everything's computerized.
Yeah.
And were you here for the computerization of the library, or?
I was here. I avoided it as much as possible. I let John O'Hare take care of that.
Let John do that.
Well, the first computers we had were part of a grant, and I was involved in that. That must have been probably the late 70s or early 80s. The Suffolk system provided money, or somebody did, so that we each got a computer and some simple things. And I learned how to do that, but that was about as far as I ever got.
Now it's all computerized,
and
I'm
then
sure.
we wanted bought a electronic typewriter.
Oh.
That was very nice. Mrs. North was very happy to have that.
Really?
Yes. She was doing most of the typing then, and she...
On an upright or on the wood or whatever they...
Yeah, it was just an old manual, I guess.
Yeah, manual typewriter.
At that point, we looked into word processors.
Oh, yes.
But they were quite expensive, and so we got an electronic typewriter, which was fine. You could see it going by in a little strip, and you could correct it without putting
no white
out in there.
No white
stuff.
out.
It was very nice.
I know. We just had a young tour over at Meadowcroft, and we have an old upright. And one of the kids on the tour, they said, "What is that?" They never saw a typewriter.
Well, after we got the electronic typewriter, we used to have the old manual one for people to use if they wanted to.
They
the
wanted
kids
it.
would come in and they'd say,
"Yes,
where do you turn it on?
Where's the plug?
Where's the switch?"
Well, I remember our 50th anniversary.
Yes, we had a big party.
Big party, and the standing. I was so glad to meet Dwayne Hawkins there.
Yes.
That was that and Mrs.
Alice
Larrabee.
Yes.
Yeah. You remember both of them, of course.
They were the stars of the show.
They were the stars of the show.
Yeah.
I remember Mr. Hawkins, I was a little surprised he was using a cane. But he was very sharp.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That's for sure. But I know he was very active. He became principal here, I think, in 1940. And he was always involved with the library.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though the library had been founded in 1938, Mr. Hawkins was a good supporter of the library.
I think he was probably a trustee at some point.
He was probably a trustee way back. Yeah, he was a good man. Yeah, now deceased, of course, you know that.
Well, I presume so, yes.
Yeah, that's why I'm glad we had that 50th anniversary.
Yes,
it was nice. Very nice. Yeah, and every time I go by her house, I still think that's Mrs. Larrabee's house or Dwayne Hawkins' house over here.
Yeah. Well, you know, one time after we had the first edition, I think I was away or something. Anyway, you remember Ernie Daw? He was the janitor for years and years.
I remember the name, but I could...
Well, I think he worked also for the school district, but he moonlighted as the janitor for the library. He was here nights.
All right.
But he was ill or something, and his nephew or grandson was substituting. And a raccoon fell through the ceiling. Poor kid, he didn't know what to do. He tried to call me. I wasn't home. He got hold of Kathy Klug, and she called, I think, Bob Littlequist, who was a trustee.
He was a trustee.
They came up and they chased this raccoon all through the stacks. I've forgotten how they got it out, but
Maybe they opened the doors.
I might have been just away for the evening because I came in the next day and spent half a day putting things back together in the corner of the reference section.
Well, those raccoons are fast.
Yes.
Maybe they just opened the doors and hoped the thing would run out.
Well, maybe so.
I don't know.
We had to get, what's his name now? Guy who lives in Bayport. He's an exterminator, and he came and we dealt with the raccoons over several weeks. He trapped them and took them away.
And that was in the
closed up
original
holes.
part of this building?
It was in the first edition.
Oh, the first edition.
Yeah.
Okay, gee.
Yes.
The other thing nice about the library, I always enjoy it, you see people walking in here with their heads down, but they're reading the stones out there.
Yes, yeah.
It always looks
That's
like
nice.
they're walking slowly with their heads down,
Yeah,
but they're reading all the names. There must be, I don't know how many out there, 500?
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And it's really a nice, I like that, nice tribute to many local people.
Yeah.
I think the fire department, copied it next door,
Oh, really?
where they have their bell.
Oh, yes.
They have bricks
Yeah,
there with names on the bricks.
Yeah.
But I know the library really started that here. And that was a good project, I thought.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, buy a brick.
Yeah.
And we always had a shrine on the front lawn, didn't we, of this building? For the, was that the Lions Club, I believe. Remember they had all the names out there of veterans for a while?
Yeah, that was
That was a ways back.
a ways back, and it kind of fought that. I wasn't sure it was really appropriate.
Yeah, is it appropriate, right? But it's still there. I
It's
mean,
still there.
Modified
Yes,
somewhat.
I've gotten used to it.
Yeah, I've gotten used to it.
Yeah, I think maybe it was veterans of the Korean War. And
Is
then
that
they
what it
changed
was?
To all the veterans.
Yeah, they used to have nameplates
Yeah.
in there, but they're all gone, so. Yeah, I don't have any pictures of that when it was first built.
Yeah.
I have some of the new one, but not the old one. Do you remember Bob Brown across the street? Or
Oh, yes. I think of him every spring about this time. He had the best strawberries.
did he really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I used to buy strawberries there if I didn't buy anything else.
Yeah, he was a nice man.
And if
Yeah.
there was a fire alarm, he would run across the street and unlock the door
Oh,
in his apron.
well, he was probably the closest one to the fire department.
Yeah.
So it was his job, I suppose, to
Yeah.
trigger the siren or whatever they opened the doors.
I don't know exactly what he was doing, but I do remember seeing him running across the street, and I think
Yes.
it was after the siren went, so
Oh.
probably he was unlocking something.
Maybe he could trigger it from the store. I don't know.
Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, because we never had a manned fire department, so
No.
he would have to. And then the post office was right across the street. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. You do.
I think that when we first came, we didn't have house-to-house delivery.
Yeah, I don't. I'd say it started maybe in the 50s,
Yeah,
home delivery,
uh-huh,
because that's when we got house numbers.
yeah,
So you didn't need a number if you didn't
Right.
have a home delivery.
yeah.
That was Mrs. Goodwin. You remember Mrs. Goodwin?
Mm-hmm.
Maria Goodwin. She was the postmaster for many years.
Yeah.
That's
And
interesting.
Mrs. Furchett was postmistress after
Oh,
that
yeah,
for a long,
that's
long
right.
time, too.
That was Evelyn. Is that
Yeah.
her name? Evelyn Furchett.
Yeah.
How big was circulation in the old days? It couldn't have been too big, right?
I'm sure there are records. I really,
Yeah.
I couldn't give you a number.
Wouldn't compare to today's. I'm
Oh,
sure it's
no, yeah.
population-wise, we've grown
Yeah,
so much.
yeah. Well, one thing since I've left, so much of it now is interlibrary loan because people can access the whole county from their home computers. And it's really a big job in the back room now to deal with the
Yeah.
daily deliveries of books.
And the truck
from
comes
other
here
libraries.
daily.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted a book, you just place an order and it'll be delivered tomorrow.
Well, if
More or
it's
less.
available in some library, if
In
it's on
Suffolk.
the shelf in the library, it'll
Yeah.
be delivered certainly within a very few
Yeah.
days anyway.
We never had that cooperative, did we? That Suffolk cooperative when you first came here? I think they're relatively new.
It must have started in the 60s.
In the
sometime,
60s, huh? Wow.
because it was already going when I went to library school, which was in
Okay.
1968.
Wow.
It had been going for probably maybe as much as 5 years.
And Nassau has the same setup as we do?
I'm not
Suffolk,
sure.
yeah.
They might, yeah.
Interlibrary loans. So do you remember anything else about the original days here or way back, and patrons, unique experiences, storms, power blackouts?
Well, I remember a snowstorm that must have been in the 70s when we were closed for a couple of days.
Really?
And at that point, there was no arrangement for somebody to shovel the walks. I shoveled the walks.
Oh, my word.
And on that occasion,
That's a lot.
my husband and I guess Alan was still home. We came up and shoveled. It must have been, it was up to here.
Yay deep.
Yeah, drifted. We shoveled out the front walk and the side entrance. Used to come in over there.
Now it's interesting that I think really the main door to the library is in the back.
Yeah,
Don't you
that's
think?
the way most people
I
come
think
in.
more people use that door
Yeah.
than use the
Because the parking is back
parking
there,
is
yes.
there.
Yeah,
We're lucky to have that parking lot
we are, yes.
because Blue Point Avenue really isn't adequate
Right.
for what
yeah.
we're doing today. I know up until the time the library put this back door on in the parking area, a lot of people in town didn't know we had a cemetery back there.
Oh,
They were surprised to see it because it's not really visible from the street.
yeah, yeah.
And now it's highly visible.
Well, there's still people who don't know that there's a parking lot back there. They don't know, where do you park? And
Where do you park?
how do you get in if you're handicapped?
Come right in the back
Yeah.
door,
Yeah.
right in the back. It's nice the library today is totally handy, accessible.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I still would like to see that back walk
yeah.
rebuilt.
The
because,
slope,
particularly on this end, it's
it's
too
steep. It's
Yeah.
too steep.
The other one is manageable, I think.
Over
with a
here,
wheelchair.
the south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you had to push
Yeah.
yourself in a wheelchair,
That's
I don't
kinda
think you'd ever
tough.
make it up there.
No, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
You tend to go back. Gravity.
And the other thing
Yeah.
that's always bothered me is there are people who are not able to walk very far but are not in wheelchairs.
I know.
And to park back there and have to walk a half a mile to the desk,
To circulation.
I don't know that there's anything you can do about that. But
I don't know.
this business of being totally accessible is
Yes.
qualified.
Yes. The other thing we're lucky to have, because in a lot of libraries, well, now that maybe they do, but that community room is beautiful.
Yes, yeah,
Beautiful. We get guest speakers here who comment on it. How nice it is.
yeah.
It really is. And I know it's dedicated to you and your husband,
Yeah.
right? What was it like going over to get the Nobel Prize? That was a great honor.
Oh, yes.
Just to
That
get
was
away from the
great.
library
Yeah.
for a minute. But yeah, that was in 2002,
2002, yes.
the Nobel Prize
Yes.
in physics.
There's a video about that.
Oh, there is.
Yes, it's called The Ghost Particle.
Oh,
And I know that the library has a copy or copies of it.
yes.
It tells about my husband's work and various other things.
Isn't that wonderful?
And there was a
Yeah.
British, it was made by a British company. It was
Yeah.
originally a British show, and it was bought by Nova, I guess, and slightly altered for the American market, but there's,
So you went over, was that Stockholm, is that right?
Yes.
Stockholm, Sweden.
yes. We were up in Vermont, and they announced the prizes in October.
Because Nobel's birthday is December, I think,
Yes,
isn't it?
well, I think it's the date of his death, I believe.
Oh, his death,
The 10th
December
of
the
December,
10th?
yes. And they
Yes.
always give out the prizes.
Oh, that's when they give out the prizes.
Yeah.
Oh,
But we were in Vermont because my sister was dying of cancer up there, and we were back and forth. And
yeah.
so we were up there, and I got a call from my nephew who worked for Minnesota Public Television in St. Paul. Called in early in the morning and says, "Congratulations." And I said, "For what?"
For what?
"Don't you know Ray won the Nobel Prize in Physics?"
Isn't that wonderful?
So I'm kind of glad that we weren't here because, of course, there were television trucks and reporters
All
and
over.
everything all over. And we weren't home.
We're at home. Oh, that's wonderful.
Which was good because my husband was already starting to have Alzheimer's, and he would have been very upset with all that.
Yeah,
confusion.
there's too much turmoil.
Yeah. But he was well enough, I think, to enjoy the trip.
Go over.
They paid for everything.
So when did they tell you won? Was that like in the fall?
Yeah,
then,
it's in October.
October, and then
First
go
few
over
days of October.
and come over in December
yes.
to pick up the prize.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So we took our 5 children and their spouses and our 11 grandchildren.
All of you.
The whole gang.
How many is that totally then? You must have
I think it was 21.
21
And
people.
there were a couple of extras, a colleague of my husband's and his wife.
So you got the applause going.
Oh yeah, we caused quite a sensation in Stockholm.
Isn't that
This
wonderful?
Huge family.
How long did you actually stay there? Were you there
I think
for
it was 8 days.
8 days?
Yes, and it's they've done this so many years.
Yes,
that
of
it's
course.
pretty well
Yeah.
set in stone that you do this on such and such a day
Yes.
and that on such and such a day.
Did they have a dinner or a
Yes, there's a big banquet.
banquet?
And the prize, let's see, the banquet and the prize presentation are on the same evening. And each prize winner gets a personal limousine with a driver for the whole
nice.
period.
Oh, how nice.
And what they call an attaché from the foreign office. And we had a nice lady named Agneta, and I had a lot of conversations with her beforehand. You know, would you need a hairdressing appointment? And you need to have your husband come for a fitting for
Yes,
a tuxedo and so
of
on.
course.
Well, he had a tuxedo, but you need white tie and tails. Big discussion about whether my youngest son could wear his dress naval uniform. No, because no one is allowed to wear a uniform.
Oh, no military.
No military. White tie and tails or national costume.
Oh,
Some of the Japanese were in,
Yes.
kimono and all that
yes,
stuff.
yes. Now, are all those Nobel Prizes presented at the same occasion?
The
Like
Peace
literature,
Prize,
economics?
The Peace Prize is different. It's
different.
presented in Oslo
Oh, that's Oslo, okay.
a few days beforehand, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Not on the same day.
Oh,
But the stage in the place where they do the presentation is all decorated with flowers, live flowers. It's like
in December?
murals of flowers, and these flowers are all provided by the city of San Remo, where Nobel Prize Alfred Nobel died.
Oh,
So that's their memorial is every
Yes.
year to present all these billions of flowers.
isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, and the Stockholm Symphony played for the occasion and was conducted by Alan Gilbert, who is now the conductor of the New York Philharmonic.
I just remember you set up a showcase here,
Yeah.
and that's the only time I ever saw a Nobel medal.
Uh-huh. Well, I think it's the only Nobel Prize that's ever been in Blue Point.
I know in Blue Point. We're honored that Ray is buried in the cemetery back there.
Yeah.
How many cemeteries have a Nobel Prize winner?
Well,
Not many. Not
quite
on
a
Long
few,
Island.
but not
Not around here.
concentrated.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I know you have that written on a stone too.
Yes, yeah.
Nobel laureate.
Uh-huh.
That's quite an honor.
Yeah, I thought so.
Great honor. So your family enjoyed the vacation, I suppose.
Oh, yes.
All
Ray
together.
and I were pretty well choreographed. We had to go to all these things.
Yes,
the rest
yeah,
of them
sure.
had a chance to sightsee. And
That's right.
they went skating in the
Yeah.
middle of the night and all kinds of interesting things.
Did you make a scrapbook?
Oh, yes.
Just for your family, yeah.
I have a written account of what we did, and
Yes.
my daughter and daughter-in-law, they both wrote accounts, and we have lots and lots of
That's
pictures.
good.
Yeah.
And you flew, of course, right?
Oh, yes.
Was that on some airline or
It was Scandinavian.
Scandinavian,
Air Service.
SAS?
Yes, but it was, I think it was the 6th of December, and there was a snowstorm.
Oh,
My son and daughter and son-in-law and their 2 daughters from Rochester had come to our house so that we would travel together, and my son and his wife and 3 children from Santa Mauritius.
oh,
So there were 11 of us plus luggage.
On that flight.
Yes, and we asked the limousine people to give us the biggest vehicle they could find.
Yes.
So they did, and there was a kind of an elderly driver, and they kept calling, getting us earlier and earlier. The flight was 6 p.m., I think, and I think we finally left Blue Point about 11 o'clock in the morning. And it was snowing. This driver, for some reason, decided we had to go to Newark Airport, where I'd never been. Guess he hadn't either.
Yeah.
He decided it would be better to go through the city rather than by the Belt Parkway or something. So we were slogging through the city with cars everywhere and slush in the street and pedestrians this, that, and the other way. And one of the girls had to go to the bathroom, so we had to find a convenience store. And we were all sort of hungry, so we all lined up and used the bathroom and bought chips and things.
Eat something. And it was still snowing.
Still snowing. We did finally find the Newark Airport. It took a little doing.
And the flight was on schedule?
Yeah, pretty much.
Gee, that's wonderful.
Another daughter and her family were supposed to be flying from St. Louis, and they were supposed to coordinate and get on the same flight with us, but they missed that, and they didn't show up in Stockholm till the following morning, and they were...
It's pretty tough to assemble 21 family members
yes.
at one place
Yeah.
at one time.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you went for 8 days then. That was nice.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And where's the medal today? Do you have the medal?
I have... The real medal is in the bank.
In the bank, yes, safe deposit.
We have a replica which you
isn't that
can't
wonderful?
really tell from the other one
Yes.
unless you hold them, and one
Yeah,
is a
of
little
course,
heavier than the other.
Weight.
I have the replica in the
My.
little red leather box with his name on it, and there's also a big diploma that's personally
Yes.
designed for each individual.
And you met the king.
Oh, yes.
The king presented that.
Yes. And, well, one of the most wonderful things was my husband by that time was not able to follow directions very well, and I was concerned that he would not be able to do the thing that they're supposed to walk to the center of the stage and meet the king,
Yes.
and he presents it, and then you shake his hand, and you bow to the king, and you bow to your colleagues, and you bow to the audience, and all these things. So they had a meeting ahead of time, and I got my attaché to raise this question, and the king said, I will go to him, which he did.
He did. That's quite an honor right there.
Yes.
Now, is there a queen?
Oh, yes, there's
There
a queen.
was a queen.
Yes,
I'm never
she's
sure.
very beautiful,
Yes.
very well maintained.
Lovely people, I'm
And
sure.
there was a prince and a princess. There is another princess who was older, and she was at school. And there was also a lady named Princess Lillian. She was the king's aunt, I think. She died recently. Her obituary was in the New York Times. She was an English woman. And she got acquainted with Crown Prince somebody or other, who never got to be king.
Oh,
But they were not allowed to marry because she was a commoner. So they were lovers for 35 years. And finally they were married after, I don't know, somebody else got to be king or something. So anyway.
yeah. Is the same person king today then? No.
Yes.
Oh, he's still there.
Yeah.
I don't really follow all those
Yeah.
changes in European
Carl
monarchy.
Gustav the 16th or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It's quite an honor. It's an honor for Blue Point,
Yes.
an honor for Brookhaven Lab.
Yeah.
Quite a few people, not quite a few, but I'm sure there are people from the lab that are honored that way too, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great for Ray. Yeah, I used to see him walking by the house a lot. That's where
Yes.
I knew Ray most. He was in the carpool. Do you remember the carpool?
Oh, I remember the carpool.
With
yes.
Dutch,
Yeah.
and I don't know who else, but
Well, Glenn Price from Bayport.
that's right, yeah.
And Frank Miles, who lived on Bergen Lane. Jim Richards.
I don't know him.
Well, he lived in Bayport, Paulana Avenue, I think.
Oh.
His mother-in-law lived on Bergen Lane.
And that was the carpool every day over to the lab.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
Yeah. There was a There's a newspaper article about it that I have copies of.
Oh, really?
I'd like to tuck that into the history. I'll see if I can dig it up for you.
Sure, dig it up, sure.
Well, another thing I wanted to talk about is the Bay Area of the Fine Arts, BAFA.
BAFA.
Which was founded in about 1967 or 8, mainly through the efforts of Charlotte Price, who lived in Bayport. She thought that primarily she was interested in forming an orchestra with other community musicians so that the kids in the high school who were ready for that sort of thing would have an experience to play with older players. And, well, it was not limited to the orchestra. She used to have what she called the Art Inn. Do you remember that? It was a summer art festival, maybe 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
She and Robert Proctor, who was the music person at the time.
And where was that held, the Art Inn?
On the grounds of the high school in
was.
Bayport.
Oh.
There were art exhibits, there were
Nice.
concerts and recitals and all kinds of stuff.
Yes, good
It
for...
was very ambitious.
Good.
And the orchestra still exists. I just resigned from it myself.
And what do you play? You were violin
I
or
was a second violin
second violin?
for 43 years or something
Wonderful.
like that.
So you're retired from that now?
Yeah. I just told him I was not coming back next year because my fingers have all turned into thumbs and I
But
can't
they're
see all that
still
well.
functioning,
Yes,
BAFA.
yes. There's a
The
concert.
Bay Area Friends of the Fine Arts.
Yeah.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. BAFA. That's a good group. That's a good community group. Not many communities would have a group like that.
No, I think it's pretty unusual for a
It is.
community this size to have its own symphony orchestra.
Yes, good.
Of course, there are players that are not from Bayport and Blue Point.
Of course. Will they be giving a concert this summer, do you know? Or?
Yes, there's one on June the 2nd, I think.
Oh,
June 1st, June 2nd. I'm not involved because I'm going to St. Louis for a granddaughter's wedding, but it is that weekend.
and where do they hold that? Like at the junior high school? Or?
I believe the concert this time is going to be in the Sayville. Middle
Sayville.
School. Yeah, on Johnson Avenue.
Oh, well, that's wonderful.
Usually have put up a poster, but I haven't been there because I wasn't going to be in this concert.
Right, right.
I don't know. There may not be a poster this time.
Yeah, there should be, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bay Area Friends of the Fine Arts. That's good for young people. Mm-hmm. Very good for them.
We don't have as many high school kids as we used to, but there are some. They
Yes.
seem to be much busier than they used
So
to
it's a
be.
blend really between seasoned players and
Yeah, it's
high school students.
now mostly older people,
Yeah,
unfortunately, but yeah.
That's true of many organizations here, though. They run on retirees
Right, yeah.
who are talented
Yeah.
and they have skills. Yeah. Well, that's good. And what else did you want to bring in, Anna? Anything else?
Well, I was
Yeah.
thinking, remember when the whistle from the Red Mill used to blow?
I don't remember that. Over here at the lace
Yeah.
mill?
When my kids were young,
That.
they were still blowing it at noon, probably 8 o'clock or something, and then in the late afternoon.
Oh,
It was still operating. I think they were still making lace curtains, maybe.
wow.
And I used to tell my children, when you hear that whistle, come home.
Yeah, the lace mill whistle.
Yeah,
That must have been a pretty loud whistle.
it was. Yeah. And the other thing I used to hear, which you don't hear anymore, is oil tankers going into Patchogue.
No, you don't.
And in the wintertime, sometimes they'd get stuck in the ice, and you'd hear
Yes.
this diesel rumbling day after day. And I was sitting waiting there for the ice to loosen up.
I know in the old days we got a cold spell. I don't know if they used an icebreaker or what, but they did try to cut a channel through the bay from the inlet, I suppose,
Yeah.
over to Patchogue for those oil
Yeah.
boats. But now there are no more oil deliveries in
No.
Patchogue. No,
No, not for years.
It doesn't come in by boat anymore.
Well, I guess it comes to Northville still.
Right, from Northville. Were you ever involved in ice boating? I know it
No,
was popular, but
we never had an ice boat. We used to watch them sometimes. But we used to go skating on the bay.
Oh, yeah.
I think our family was the only people who ever dared skate off Blue Point. We never saw anybody else.
Because couldn't it be choppy down there? The
Well, it was
ice?
sometimes a little rough.
A little
As
rough.
long as it was thick enough, it was okay.
It was all right.
We did a lot of skating. My husband had a skate sail.
Oh, he did.
Yeah, it's like a big kite, you know, and you hold it
And it
over
would
your
pull you?
shoulder. I never dared try it myself.
No.
I wasn't a good enough
Because you
skater.
can get going pretty fast.
Oh, yeah, really fast. And then there was a year, I think it was 1979, when the ice was thick enough to drive on.
Take a car out there. It's very risky.
My son, Roger,
Oh, no.
he was not the first one out there, but I think he
Yeah.
was the second.
Wow.
I had an old VW Beetle, and he took that out there, he and his younger brother,
Did.
with the doors wide open in case they had to jump out.
Yeah.
And they'd get up speed and jam on the brakes, and you go this way, you know.
Oh, my word. Wow.
And then in the afternoon, somebody else fell through with a vehicle, and so they wouldn't let people on anymore.
no.
Of course, they had to. Whoever fell through had to pay to get his vehicle hauled out again.
Wow.
And in the summertime, of course, we had a sailboat, which my husband built. It was a 21-foot Mallard. And we sailed that for years and years. All the kids learned to sail.
It's one of the beauties of living up.
Clamming, you know.
Go clamming.
Yeah.
Now there's still
Horseshoe
clams.
crabs. Lots of
Horseshoe
horseshoe
crabs.
crabs on the edge of the bay.
Isn't
I
that
haven't seen
amazing?
them for years.
Not for years, huh? Have you noticed lately the bay is cleaner?
Yeah.
With that new inlet?
Yeah, I hope it stays open. I
Yeah,
think
I hope
it's
so.
really good for us.
It apparently has flushed out the bay
Yeah.
because there were no inlets between Fire Island and
Great Gun or
Shinnecock, maybe, or
no,
Mauritius.
Mauritius Inlet,
Inlet. But that's a long stretch.
yes,
And from what I understand, the bay water down here was rather dead.
yeah.
Didn't circulate.
Yeah.
Now it's circulating. I haven't been down there to look at it, but I'd like to see it.
Maybe the clams will come back.
Maybe they will. Yeah.
Clamming hasn't been what it was for
Not at
years.
all.
Yeah.
Does anyone get any clams down here anymore? At least up to last
Well,
season?
Occasionally I see clam boats out
Oh,
there.
you do?
But nothing like what you used
Nothing
to.
like what it used to be.
But recently, maybe a month or two ago, I walked down and I was out on the pier at the end.
At the end of Blue
And-
Point Avenue?
It seemed to me that I smelled ocean water.
Ah,
It smelled more like ocean water than bay water.
that's a good sign.
Yes, good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's definitely clearer, of course.
Did we ever have a problem here with brown tide, or doesn't that affect us?
I don't know whether it was officially a brown tide, but there had been some yucky water.
Some discoloration?
And eelgrass piled up on the beach.
Yeah, eelgrass.
Stinking in August, you know.
No.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a house over at the beach? Did you go over
No,
there? No. We didn't
A
either.
bunch of us at one point bought a strip of property over there. I think it was 50 feet wide
Yeah,
in the vicinity of Water Island. We used
that's
it just
nice.
for a landing place.
yeah.
We called ourselves the Blue Point Surf and Sail Club.
The Blue Point Surf and Sail.
And we had an annual picnic, and once
Yeah.
we had a regatta, which was kind of
Regatta.
a joke. But we used it for a landing
Oh,
place
that's wonderful.
for a number of years, and then we sold it to the seashore.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
Well, I'm glad the seashore is there
yes,
because that preserves Fire Island,
yeah,
which is always moving.
right, yeah.
And you survived Sandy, I presume?
Yes, I'm
No
fortunately
problems on
far enough
Bergen
back
Lane?
from the water so that, well, I have two holly trees. I had two holly trees.
Oh.
There's a really big one in the front. It's an
Yeah.
American holly, and it's pretty well denuded on one side,
get
but it
burned, yeah.
is coming back.
New growth at the tips.
Yeah,
Same, I have some young hollies and there's new growth.
I was surprised because that's a native species, you know.
Yes.
It grows right on the dunes, and
You think it would be all right.
used to salt water.
Yeah, we must have gotten an awful lot of salt though.
Yes, yeah.
in the air.
White pines are just
White pines. But now
Very
at the
bad.
tips of all these white pines, I see about an inch of new growth.
oh good, yeah.
So that's a good sign.
Yeah, they may come back.
They say it'll take 2 years, or all these brown needles are going to drop.
Yeah.
But had I known that, I would have come out of the house the next day with the hose
Yeah.
and sprayed down the shrubbery.
Yeah.
But I didn't. You don't
Well, I
really
hosed
see it.
down some rose bushes which I had recently
Oh,
planted.
that's good.
I think maybe they wouldn't have been damaged anyway.
Yeah, roses could be
It
hardy
didn't occur
enough.
to me that I should hose down my holly trees.
Yeah, it never occurred to me. Anything else you wanted to bring in? Blue Point,
Well,
the library.
I was thinking in a general way of the changes in architectural styles over the last years. There have been fads, you know. First there were, everybody had a ranch house, and then everybody had a split level house, and then everybody had to have a Palladian window.
Yes.
And then everybody had to have skylights, and I don't know what's the latest thing now.
I don't know. The
Hope
great
you can
room.
pay your mortgage, I
Yeah,
guess.
pay your mortgage. It's amazing. The other thing I think is sad is where people buy a house just for the location
Yeah,
and tear it down.
yes,
They really don't even care about the house.
yeah.
Like now you see Mosher's place, Watson's place is for sale down here.
Oh, yeah.
And that old pipe and rail fence they have there. I
Yes,
always like
yeah.
that fence.
Uh-huh.
I hope it stays there.
Yeah.
But you never know. Yeah.
Well, then there was the time they burned down the Bradley's Beach.
Oh, I remember
Remember
that.
that?
In the 60s maybe, or somewhere around there.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was still sort of functioning when we first lived here
Yeah.
for several years because neighbors across the street from us had a membership and they
Yes.
invited us down there one time. I thought it was
Yeah.
kind of tacky myself.
Yeah, I know. They must have had 300 lockers maybe down
Yeah.
there. They had row after row after
Bathhouses,
row,
yeah.
the bathhouses. And I know they had a refreshment. You'd go in that casino, or whatever they called it. Well, in a way, I'm glad that's all New York State wetlands today.
Yeah.
It'll be
yes.
preserved. We don't need a big supper club down there or a casino
No,
or
yeah.
something. So, but now
Well,
there's
and they
not
burned
much.
the Judge McNulty's house too. That was
Yeah, that was right at the end of Bergen Lane,
that
right?
was a tragedy.
No, was that on purpose, you mean? Did they just remove it? Or was it an
A person
accident?
named Baronello had bought the property.
Oh, yeah.
And he wanted to develop it.
Oh,
And I heard that he asked permission from the fire department to burn it as an exercise,
a test.
and it was refused.
Oh,
So he torched it anyway.
yeah, went anyway.
Yeah.
Wow. Didn't a judge live there alone? McNulty,
Yes,
was it?
I never met him.
I don't
he
know
lived
him
there with
either.
his sister, who was
did he?
elderly and kind of
Yeah.
beat down. And she used to walk up the street with a little white dog named Pompey.
Poppy.
And she always had a stick to beat off all the other dogs, you know, poor old soul.
I think years ago, was that when Miles Bergen lived, for whom the street was named?
I
He might have
think
lived in that
he
house.
lived in that white house.
Oh, that little
the Aliens
house?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know the one you mean.
Yeah, I think that
Sure.
was...
That's a real old house.
Yes, yeah, that's older.
And you have
than
an
my
old house, too, which is nice.
And the nuns used to walk past our house,
Oh, yeah.
a group of nuns, and they always made much of the children who would come out and look at them,
Yes,
you
look
know.
at them.
Who are these strange
I
ladies?
remember that. And the new nuns wore white veils.
Yeah.
And the older nuns wore black veils. And there was always like 2 black veils, a whole bunch of white veils, and then 2 black veils,
yeah.
walking almost in step up the street. I used to see them walking to Bayport, too, to go swimming.
Oh,
They had a house somewhere down on the off one of those streets, Fairview or one of those. You don't see that much anymore. You don't see it all anymore. No, no.
well, my kids had such a good time growing up. They could just run
It was a
over,
great place.
run around everywhere.
Yeah.
And as long as they were home by 5 o'clock,
Yeah.
I didn't worry.
No.
Of course, they've told me since some of the things they did.
Oh.
You know, there's a big weeping beech tree down at the end of
Oh.
Bergen Lane. And it's kind of flat on the top.
Yeah.
It must be 30 feet in the air. They used to climb up there and sit on the top.
My word. That's a little dangerous. Good thing you didn't know it.
They're all alive.
They're all
Nobody
alive.
ever broke anything.
Yep, yep.
And now people don't even dare let their kids walk to school.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
outside the school now is car after car after car after car.
Yeah.
I think the crossing guard down the street crosses maybe 6 children
Yeah.
because all the others are driven.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my kids walked to school from the time they were in
walk.
kindergarten.
Sure.
I would cross them over Middle Road.
The
Usually,
middle road could be
when they were
tough,
little,
yes.
but-
Yes. But after you cross that, it was easy.
Yeah.
All right.
This begins part 2 of the interview with Anna Davis. During this section, Anna will talk about the development of the library and the 2 additions that were built.
Well, back then we were still quite closely tied to the school district, and I'm not sure. Maybe the property still belongs to the school district. I don't know. But anyway, we needed more space, and the Carter administration had offered grants for communities to construct public facilities to stimulate the construction industry, where the employment rate and unemployment rate was very high. So we got a grant. The library didn't get the whole thing, which I think was not right, but we'll forget about that. Anyway, we had some money, and we decided to add to the library, and it turned out that we used the same architect that the school district already had, and we thought the best thing to do was just to enclose as much space as possible. So we got this big wide open space with a full basement under it and some new restrooms on the side where the garden is. And that was my first experience with a construction project, and I didn't enjoy it very much. I felt that I was more or less ignored because I was a woman. Anyway, we had this fine new space, and the other thing was, it was in the middle of the first business of asbestos, and they had to do an asbestos remediation, which involved covering the whole building, well, not the whole building, but the part of it that they were working on with plastic, and installing a special shower and all kinds of nonsense. This took $30,000 out of our construction budget for, well, the floor on the old part of the building was vinyl asbestos tile, and in the old cellar there was a little bit of that old pipe insulation. So for that they did all this mess, and then they finally got this great big space, so we had room to expand into that. But of course that also involved a lot of moving. We had to move the whole nonfiction section and squeeze it into the other part of the library, and all that book moving was done by the girls who worked in the library.
That's a lot of moving.
Me and all the other ladies.
And books are heavy.
Books are heavy.
Yes.
And, well, whoever was running the deli across the street at the time was very generous with good lunch salads and things for us while we were working there. I think we may have been closed.
Closed for a month, maybe?
No, we were closed for a few days to move the books, and then I think we were open during the construction. I have letters at home that I wrote to my mother, and I described a lot of this stuff. I could loan you that.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting.
Interesting to read.
That'd be like a week-by-week account.
Not entirely. I didn't tell her everything, of course.
No.
But that would be interesting, I think, for you to read.
Did that wind up doubling the size of that first building?
Probably more than double.
More than double.
Yes, and we had that wonderful big basement.
Yeah,
for
that
storage.
helped.
Yes.
We still have that.
Yes.
I think yesterday you mentioned how the basement is separate, though, from the Bennett house.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And does this newer part back here have a basement?
No,
there's no
doesn't.
basement.
It's just on
so
a slab.
only on
Yes.
under the center part. Now we
Right.
have a basement.
Unfortunately, it was never possible to develop as public space because it's not high enough. You have to drop the ceiling to put all the wires and things in. It just isn't high enough.
And isn't there a little elevator for books going
Yes,
up
there
and down?
is,
I remember
yes.
that.
That was part of the second edition.
That was the second edition.
Yes.
But that helped carrying books up and down stairs.
Oh, yes, right.
At least lower them. Sort of like a dumbwaiter.
Yes, that's
dumbwaiter.
just what it is.
But it still works, I presume.
Oh, yes.
They still use it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was an asset. And when did the parking lot go in at back here? Was that?
Well,
That was after this one, I think.
I
wasn't
think
it?
we had
We had a
some
limited.
parking lot
Yes.
after the first edition.
Okay.
But then we had to
It pushed back.
swallow part of that
Yeah.
for the second edition.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
yes, we did have a parking lot because we had a long sloping walk that came up to that
Oh, up to
door
that
there.
door. Okay.
so that we had a handicapped entrance. Well, anyway, then 20 years later,
Right, 1993.
we were bursting at the seams again. Well, it started before 1993. Probably
Yes.
was a couple of years and all. Donald Dennis, that was the name of the
Oh,
architect.
that was the architect. I don't remember that
I think
name.
he
yeah.
was the architect first building.
Oh, okay. It's amazing when you look at the first building up there, it looks like a house
Yes.
from
yeah.
the street.
Uh-huh.
If you looked at it, it looks like a house. Picture window, living
Yeah,
room.
until we got a big sign up in front, people didn't know where the library was.
They didn't know it was a
thought
library, I
house,
don't think.
yes. Yeah.
No. It's very residential looking.
Yes.
And trees on the front lawn. It's rather heavily treed.
Yes. Yeah.
But then by 93, we needed more space.
Yes, we really needed a community room.
The community
we needed
room.
more space for
Yeah.
what they call technical services,
Yes.
getting the books in and out, and
Yes.
keeping them clean and sending out the notices and all that stuff takes place back there.
Of course.
And a new director's office. I was kind of sorry that it was back in the corner like that.
It's
because
rather hidden.
I liked being out where I could see
You were up by
everybody.
circulation, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had an office up there, and I frequently sat out at a table if I had
Sure.
work to do because
Sure.
it seemed to me important that
More in touch.
being where the public could find you if they wanted
Yes.
to talk to you.
Yes.
And besides, I liked seeing all the people that came in.
Of
I
course.
used to know
The patrons.
everybody in town that ever read a
Yeah.
book,
Yeah, of
because they
course.
came to the library.
Of course. I think the big asset back here in the third part of the library is the community room.
Yes.
It's really wonderful.
Yeah.
I think it's used considerably
Yes.
by the
In
community.
fact, today it was overused because there should have been an exercise class, but there was
Yeah.
something else that
There was
got
a conflict,
scheduled,
I
so
think, yes.
that no exercise class.
And it's amazing how at 10 o'clock in the morning, out in the parking area, you see strollers, baby carriages. They have programs for preschool
Yeah.
or some
They
children
have
or
programs for babies and
babies.
yes.
And the mothers are coming in with the mats. Or I really don't know
Yeah,
what they're doing,
yeah.
but I know it attracts an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
The library is one of the few things in town that appeals to babies to senior citizens. There's something at the library for everybody.
Well, back in about 1971, maybe, we started having the summer reading club for the
Yes.
children, and we always had a theme, which was usually, it was system-wide and with materials that they handed out, but I and my husband built various things. I think the first year was a haunted house, and I made a Charles Adams sort of house, and set it up on the shelf. And at the end of the summer, we always had a party.
Yes.
I think I gave the house to the child who had read the most books or something like that.
Oh, that was nice.
And another time we had a time machine.
Oh,
We had a big refrigerator box or something, and my husband got very interested in this, and he
did.
rigged it up. It had inside, it had a Viewmaster, those little things that you
yeah, you look through it.
yes, and there was a light bulb on top. I don't think it lit.
Oh,
There was an egg timer so that nobody would stay too long.
Oh, yes. Give them
And
just
there was a
the
door
salt.
handle,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all kinds of gadgets. That was quite a thing. Another time we had a dragon theme, and I built a dragon out of paper mache, on a frame of chicken wire and stuff. And we had a party where I had bought a lot of these little cheap jewelry and stuff, and hid it all around the backyard. And then there was something called the dragon stone. Dragons are supposed to have a stone in their heads that has magical properties.
All right.
So the person who found the dragon stone got to take the dragon home.
Wow.
I'm not sure the boy's mother was very happy
I
about
don't
this
know
because
about
it was
that.
huge. It was this long. So that was
Yes.
fun.
The other thing I think makes our library unique is the garden
Yes.
out there, the walled garden. That is, not many libraries have that.
No, and
like
that
it.
was
Yeah, whose idea was that? Where did that come from?
that was part of the original building.
It was.
Yes.
The 1950s.
Yes. And of course,
Beautiful.
when we put the first addition on and put the restrooms there, that
Yes.
encroached on the space.
It did, yes.
And some years after that, we developed it further and had some special benches built.
Yes.
But for a while, it was a convenient way for vandals to get in because they'd climb the wall and then
Yeah.
they'd take out one of the louvers in that louvered door and open the door and get in. And so
Well, I
that was-
like it. At the end of the walking tour, we always
Yes.
have refreshments out
But
there.
now it's a very attractive
like it.
place. Yes.
We have our lemonade, munchies,
Yeah.
and
I used to eat my lunch out there.
yeah, it's nice,
Yes.
serene, calm, very nice.
And one time we had a robin's. Well, this was
A nest.
this was before the first addition because there was a picture window there,
Oh, okay,
originally.
yes, okay.
And outside of that picture window, there was a small tree of some kind, and a robin built a nest in there, and we could
nice.
you could see the robins,
You could
babies,
watch it.
and so on.
All
Yeah.
season.
I was sorry to have that window gone.
Yeah, I bet. A picture window. Looking out into the garden.
It seemed like a logical place to put the restrooms because we needed to have them
Yeah.
visible from the desk. When the building got bigger, I was concerned about supervising the
Yeah, who's going to
restrooms, but
supervise?
there's so many more people working here now that there's not so much
Yes.
mischief in the dark corners.
No, that's good. And the other thing I'm glad we have now is that parking lot in the back. I don't know how many
Yes.
cars can park there, but it must be, I don't know, 70 maybe?
Quite a few,
I have
yeah.
no idea. A lot of cars.
Yes.
Because parking on Blue Point Avenue would not be adequate at all today.
And it's also useful for the school. It's used
It is. Fire department, we
fire
have a gate,
department sometimes.
connects to the
yes.
fire department lot.
When there's a big event somewhere,
Yeah,
at
when
the
they have
school or
their,
something, it's
their big cookout or something, I know cars
Yes,
park
yeah.
here. It even comes in handy for us, I hate to say it, but at funerals.
yes.
You know, the
absolutely,
funerals come
yes.
in and we have adequate parking back there. Yeah. And it did bring great visibility to the cemetery,
Yes.
which is
yeah.
good. Cuts down on vandalism,
Yes. Yeah.
visibility. Do you remember do you remember Laverne?
Oh yes.
Laverne Whitlock?
Sure,
Matter
yeah.
of fact, right behind me, that's the Laverne, what does it say up there?
The Laverne Whitlock Historical Collection. Yes.
Established 1983. He was quite a collector, though, of Long Island and local.
Yes. In the old basement, he had a locked cabinet with various historical
Yes.
items in it, and one of the things that we had to do when we were moving for the first edition was to take that stuff and store it over at the school. So we had
That's quite a move.
Yeah.
That's a lot to move it over.
I think we also stored some furniture over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And then afterwards we got
Tables
it back.
because it was
I presume a lot of these books were probably part of that. Laverne's collection.
Yeah, there are a lot more books than there were, but
Yeah.
yes, there were books, and there was this cabinet. And I remember we had a crew of janitors from the school district. They came and moved it all over
Bring
there.
it over.
And then I went over and put it all back in the cabinet, wherever it was. I don't remember the details now, but
But Laverne was a trustee here for many years.
oh yes,
I know that.
25 years.
25
something like
years.
that, yes.
I wish you were here today to be interviewed.
Yeah.
He'd be a wealth of information.
Yes, he had a lot of historical
Laverne
information
Whitlock.
too.
Were there any other trustees that you remember as being unique,
Well,
doing something for the
yeah,
library?
we talked about Joe McCarthy the other day.
Oh, yeah,
He's the
Joe
other one that I
McCarthy.
remember particularly.
Sure,
Well, Laverne
sure.
had on his property in Bayport, he had some kind of a magnolia tree that had a blossom that was as big as a dinner plate. And he
Really?
used to bring one of those in to be on display when it was in bloom around about this time of year, I guess. Yeah.
I just remember in the old days, outside on I think on library property, there was always a lake out there. When it
Yes.
rained, a big lake.
Yes.
And they used to jokingly call it Lake Laverne.
Oh,
I don't know why, but that was Lake Laverne. It's
Well,
gone now, of course. We didn't
yeah.
have very good drainage, or the water ran.
there
I don't
was
know what.
problems I remember with the first addition was that there was vault outside that door with the electrical stuff, but for some reason it flooded over and over, and there was a pipe that came into the old basement. I don't remember why it was there, whether there were wires coming in or anyway, it used to drip water. And I would
Water and electric don't mix.
no,
No.
and I used to have to empty buckets,
Oh.
bucket after bucket, you know, if it were heavy
From the
rain or
basement?
something, from the basement.
Oh. Water's heavy.
And I complained and complained.
Yeah.
And, what are we going to do about
Yeah.
that?
What are you going to do about
I
that?
don't remember what we did finally. Ernie Daw rigged some kind of
Oh, did he?
business with a funnel and a piece of string that would run into a garbage can, but you still had to do
Just don't
something.
get rid of it.
Oh, finally, I think there was a drain, a floor drain in the furnace room, and he rigged some kind of a hose so that we could run it into the furnace room.
Go right in there.
I really, and one time we hired John O'Hare as a reference librarian.
Right, right.
And not long after he arrived, I was called in the evening because there was a flood in the cellar. And it turned out that some joker had plugged up the toilets, and they were running, the water was running over the top of the toilet tanks and down into the cellar. And I came up here with my rubber boots and I said to John, now you know what directors have to do.
Yes. Nighttime visits.
Yes.
Emergency.
Yes, I also was the one who had to answer the security alarms when they went off.
Isn't that annoying?
I would get up in the middle of the night, hopping mad, and come flying up here. And if it
Yes.
had ever been a real emergency, they could have coshed me over the head before
Yes.
I knew what was
I
happening.
know. That could be a little dangerous.
Supposed to wait for the police.
Wait
but
for
I
the
never-
police.
I never did.
And did you ever
They took
encounter
to it.
anybody, or was it generally it was
Everyone was a
a
false.
false alarm?
Yeah.
And I know our hours have expanded a lot,
Yes. Yeah.
because in the old days we were only open, I don't know, in the afternoon and in the evening, I
Yeah,
think, 3
afternoons
days a
and
week.
2 evenings or something.
Wasn't
like
much.
That, yeah. So that was one of the first things I did when I got to be the director, was to expand the hours
Expand the hours.
and pay people and have them
Yes.
work more hours so that
Yes.
we didn't have so many people 2 hours at a time. You know.
The other name I remember from way back was Jenny Haskell.
Oh yes.
Remember, didn't she start that children's?
Yes,
something to
she
do with
was.
the reading or
She was
forget.
our children's librarian.
children's librarian.
I could never hire her as full-time because she was not civil service qualified as a librarian, and as a matter of fact, she had never been to college. But she was an extremely talented person,
Very talented.
very gifted, wonderful with children,
Yeah.
artistic, but she was happy to be a part-time person,
Yeah,
fortunately.
that's fine.
And she was the one who found the artist who made that.
The tree.
That tree.
The tree. It's
Yes.
still out there, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
I think it cost us $1,000 maybe. And
Yeah.
the man who made it said, if I'd known how much trouble it was going to be,
Yeah. He would.
I'll never make another one. He said, not for that price.
But it's still there.
It's still
and
there, yes.
All these years.
It's a nice feature of the
Yeah.
children's department.
But I know she did a lot with the children.
Yes.
Jenny Haskell. Is she still alive, or do you ever
Yes,
hear?
she lives on Cape Cod.
I was going to say she moved away.
She and
I knew
her
that.
husband both live there.
Oh, isn't that wonderful? And you're in touch with some of the former
We exchange Christmas cards.
Christmas cards. We'll try to get Dennis McCarthy in here. Maybe he'll talk about his father.
Yeah.
The Remarkable Kennedys,
Yes.
or whatever other books he wrote.
Yeah, he wrote a book about the 1938 hurricane.
Yeah, I just saw that book somewhere. Now, where did I see
He
that?
wrote some of the Time Life series. I think maybe one about Ireland.
He did one on Ireland, yeah. I remember that. Then he used to write little, the magazine in the seat of Aer Lingus, the airplane magazines. And they used to pay him with tickets.
Oh.
They would give him tickets, round-trip tickets to Ireland in payment for those articles.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said to him one day, I always call Mr. McCarthy, were they first-class tickets? He said, no, they were coach. But occasionally he would get moved up to first class. But he
and
joked
during
about
World
it.
War II, he was the editor of Yank.
He was Yank, that's right, Yank magazine.
GI magazine.
He was a very literary person. Mm-hmm. Bayport and Blue Point, did you ever know, who was the other writer we had in Blue Point?
Leon Wright.
Theon Wright.
Yeah.
Did you know him at all?
I didn't.
You didn't. I
His
didn't know him
children were contemporaries of some of my children.
Oh,
They went to
okay.
school together. But
Theon Wright.
they
I have
were
some of his
kind
books at home, but
The children kind of ran wild. They were under the care of a nanny.
I wonder if they have a nanny. And do you know of any other writers in Bayport or Blue Point?
There was one that the Laverne used to talk about. He was, I can't think of his name now.
Not the fellow that wrote all those books.
A series book.
Yeah, it was those books.
Yeah. What's his name?
I can't remember it either. Yeah, it was Harry Irving Hancock.
Oh, yes.
And he wrote books like this.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, and the library here must have 10 of them or more of
I
Harry.
wonder if they were
Irving.
Laverne's collection, maybe.
No, you know what they were? One day I was out in Riverhead and I went to a book sale in a barn. And the guy out there said he had a whole bunch of these books. Said you can have them all for $10.
Oh.
So
Laverne would have been delighted.
Laverne would have been delighted.
Yes.
So I took the books, of course, and donated them to the library.
Yeah.
They have them in here. But yeah, Harry Irving Hancock was a very prolific writer. But the books he wrote were like for young teenage boys, and they were throwaway books.
Yeah.
They were books you wouldn't really keep in your
Hardy
library.
Boyle sort of thing.
That's right. But I'm glad seeing how Hancock lived in Blue Point. His books are preserved here today.
Yeah.
That's all. So we do have a literary heritage here at the library.
Yes.
And he's buried, by the way, in the cemetery out back.
Oh, really?
But no marker.
Oh.
I'm kind of hoping that there would be a literary society out there somewhere that would donate a marker.
Yeah.
Harry Irving Hancock. But anyway, another story.
Oh, we had an artist, too. Painted the scenes on the...
That was...
Oh.
Yeah, what was his name? I know who you mean. I can't remember it either. But I know he did beach scenes, yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was his mother-in-law or somebody lived here in Blue Point. And he really lived in... Summered in Belport, but came over here to visit. Yeah. Glackens.
Yeah, you gave a talk about
I
him
gave a
one
talk
time.
on
Yes,
him.
right.
William
Glackens.
J. Glackens. Yeah.
And
artist.
one time when I was visiting my daughter who lives near Rochester, we went to the art museum in Rochester. And
Sure. Beach umbrellas at Blue
painting
Point.
of Blue Point.
Sure.
Yes.
I went to Rochester and saw the same painting. Yep. Yeah, beach umbrella. I think it's beach umbrellas at Blue Point. Yeah, Blue Point's had its share. But Glackens was only a visitor here. He really wasn't a resident. But still, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
We're remembered in the world of fine art. Anything else, Anna, that you wanted to mention about the library, especially over all the years you were director? How many directors have we had? 4? Maybe 5?
Well, if you count all the volunteers, 1, 2, 3, 4.
But they wouldn't be
that I know
directors,
of.
would they? Or we had 4 volunteer
Well,
directors?
depends on how you're going to define a director. They were in the position of telling the other people
They were
what
in charge.
to do. Yes.
The only one I remember was Mrs. Saddam.
Yeah. Well, after that, Sarah Courant and Gertrude
Courant.
Friedlander shared it for a while. And then Gertrude was killed in an accident in France.
I remember that.
Sarah was...
There's a plaque to her in the library, I think, isn't there? Friedland, I think there is.
There used to be,
Yes.
for a while, the record collection was named for her.
Oh, it was,
way
okay.
back.
Yeah, that's
And there was a
nice.
photograph, a plaque with a
Yes.
photograph of her then. She was a lovely person.
Yeah.
And then Sarah Courant took it over for a while, and I was the next one.
And you were the next one, then John,
I was...
and now Mike.
Well, it wasn't... Actually, Sarah, her husband got a temporary position in Chicago, so they moved to Chicago for a couple of years, and she went to library school and became the director of the Patchogue Library.
Oh, okay.
So after she left, there was a kind of a committee that ran the library. I did the book buying, and Doris Stahl took care of the staffing. Perk Stoner took care of the relations with the schools, and Elizabeth Ormsby went to the meetings at the Suffolk Cooperative System and kept a liaison there going. And that lasted maybe a couple of years until I got through library school.
Yeah.
And then I got the job as the
Director.
director. And then there was John, and now there's Mike.
So we haven't had that many directors over
Not
the
too
years,
many,
really.
no.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's pretty stable.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Well, it's a nice library in which to work, I'm sure. Lovely.
I think it's a great library.
It's a wonderful
But
library.
I've traveled to
Yes.
different parts of the country. I always go and look in the library.
Yeah,
and
check
I
the
was thinking,
library.
this one's better.
It is. We are. I know. You're right. Yeah.
Especially, I think, the other libraries that I've examined, and, well, usually in smallish towns or suburbs, they don't have the wide variety of new books that we do. We've always kept a good supply of new books.
That helps.
Unfortunately, I think there are a lot of people who never go beyond the new section, the new book section.
They just go that
Yeah.
far.
When I used to be what we called cleaning shelves, which is
Yes.
checking the collection against the catalog, which I don't think you do anymore now that it's computerized. But anyway, I used to find things, and I thought, that looks interesting, and I'd take it home, read it,
Yeah, of course.
which I would not otherwise have ever thought of.
No,
you know.
no. But then you had an idea of what we
Yeah,
had.
yeah.
I presume here the circulation must go up every year.
I hope so.
I would presume
Yeah.
it does. Yeah.
I'm not sure what effect this new electronic book,
Kindle.
yeah, Kindles and Nooks and all those things.
I don't
know
know.
whether that affects
To me, a
the
book is a
circulation.
book.
Yeah, me too.
I like to highlight, write in.
Well,
Not library books, but
I just
regular.
like to read them,
Yes.
turn the
yes.
pages, and go back and say,
Yes.
who is this person? You know.
Exactly. All right. Anything else, or is that now we're up to speed? We know more about the library.
Well, I'll try to get together.
Yeah, if anything
some
else.
notes about.
Because this really is the
additions.
25th,
Yeah.
75th of the library, and we
Yeah,
should concentrate on the library as well as the community. But
Or I have this. I went through my letters to my mother, and I
Yes.
excerpted things that had to do with the library, and
Yes.
especially with my adventures in library school and so
oh,
on.
I bet.
I think you'd enjoy reading it.
Yes, I'm sure I
happy to
would.
lend it to you. It's not really complete. I'll see if I can go through
Yeah,
the rest
that'd be
of it.
wonderful. All right, and then we'll meet again.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Anna.